After scoring 111 points in Game Week 26, my best game week of the season, it's time to lock in my Game Week 27 team selection. With one free transfer and a big debate on who to captain between PALMER and Salah, we're going to get all of that sorted in today's video. So as always, if you're looking forward to it, make sure to drop a like in for 400 on this video. And of course, if you haven't already, make sure you do hit that subscribe button. Enough waffling, let's get to today's video. So first up, a quick recap on how Game Week 26 went. Last time we recorded, I think we had half of the points scored. We obviously have now had the game week concluded. 111 points for my team. It's the last time, I promise I will say that, but it was a game week rank of around 16k. So by far and away, the best game week I've had for a long time, and it was so damn needed. It meant I got a green arrow from 215k to 97k. And of course, when you look at my team, it's not like every single player performed. It was just big double-digit returns from a handful of players. And really, when we take into account Mo Salah and Alexander Isak being so highly owned, their points literally done nothing for the rank. It was all about Munoz, Mbeumo, Visser and Glasner. Those points combined were the only reason why it was basically my best game week of the season. So delighted with the moves that I'd done, bringing in Mbeumo and bringing in Glasner for the final week of the assistant manager chip. And now going into game week 27, of course, with the strategy of me not free hitting in 29, it's really important for me to start pulling out those players that do blank in 29. But the big question is, which ones remain great value until that very game week? That's something that we do need to decide. And in terms of the rest of the team, really, can I get in a forward? Because Isak, Visser and Ndai, while it's fine, is not at the level that some teams are going to be with the likes of Acuna, Mateta, Haaland possibly making their way back into the team. So with one free transfer available and 1.8 million in the bank, I think now the priority might be trying to get in a key forward into this team that allows me to run through game week 29. And there are obviously a few fantastic picks that we discussed in the previous video, and we're obviously going to reveal which one I might go to in this video. But of course, let me know in the comment section, guys, how many points did you score in game week 26? Let's take a look at some hot topics going into game week 27 before my team selection. So of course, game week 27 is a quick turnaround with the midweek deadline. If you're watching this right now, you've been warned. The deadline is 6 p.m. UK time today, so do not be missing it. Do not get caught out by this midweek deadline. So I wanted to quickly cover off some hot topics that need answering, and really the captaincy debate will be done at the end because I need to talk about my own team, so stick around for that. So first up, who are the best forwards to buy? Cunha, Wood or Mateta? Because these three really are getting the talk of the town right now. So I think if you're a free hitting in game week 29, the answer is Mateta. The Palace fixtures are great before and after that blank game week, and Mateta feels like one of those players that managers like myself who are planning to not free hit in 29 are just going to avoid and really regret it, because he continues to be the main man in this Palace team. So free hit in 29, I think it's Mateta. If you're not free hitting in game week 29, then I think it's either one of Wood or Cunha in order to prepare yourself for blank game week 29. Just because the fixtures are slightly better, I'm going to lean towards Cunha. However, I fancy Chris Wood at home against Arsenal and at home against Man City before that brilliant Ipswich game in game week 29. So I don't think it is clear cut as other managers are making out. But if I had to pick one, it would be Cunha right now. Who are the top three differentials for game week 27? Well, first and foremost, I'm a Chelsea fan, so I should be more bullish on the number 3 picks here, but Neto and Nkunku are going to be bottom of the pile. I just think, yes, there is probably going to be one that does well over the next couple of weeks with Southampton at home and Leicester at home. It feels like that's the common trend right now, but I just cannot sit here and recommend a Chelsea player. Neto and Nkunku are probably the best of the bunch if you want to go there, but I just don't love it. Number 2, I'm going to go for Minter. Now, there was a little bit of talk about him before these last 2 game weeks where he had these brilliant returns, and it could have been so much more in game week 26. I think Brighton actually has some good fixtures coming up. Game week 29, they play against Man City, which some deem tough. I think it's actually okay, that fixture. And Minter at that price point is just a much cheaper alternative to Mitoma, who is the popular pick right now. But the number 1 differential by far and away, and even a differential captain, is going to be Jared Bowen, and this one I could totally get behind. The only thing about it is trying to get there. If you've got the money to go from maybe a Morgan Rogers to a Bowen, then happy days. That feels very, very clear cut. But Otherwise, I think Bowen, if you can get there, is one of the best differentials this game week. And if you want the captaincy on him, I can't really argue it. Next up, is it time to sell Cole Palmer? I have been so clear on this. No. I cannot believe right now he's in the top 5 most sold players with Southampton and Leicester in the next 2. It just feels ridiculous. Great for us that are going to keep him because those points become a bit more relevant now that he isn't going to be just like 100% owned by everybody. So do not be selling Cole Palmer. Let the next 2 game weeks happen. If he blanks in those 2, then we just put our hands up and say we chase the fixtures, rightly so. Maybe it is then time to sell him in game week 29 as a bit of a cash cow. Final 2 questions. Are Villa mids good buy? I'm looking right now and seeing Asensio and Rashford in the top 5 most bought players. I personally don't get it. Few tricky games, Palace away, Brentford away, blank in game week 29, and we got the reintroduction of the Champions League. I think they're fantastic. I think they will tick over, but can I justify them over the other players that we have available to us? No. I think it's still a wait and see right now to decide if you have to go there, which one is actually the best. And finally, assistant manager was so kind to me in game week 26 for a lot of managers as well. But of course, it is still active for some managers out there. Game week 27 looks really appealing. There are some fantastic table bonus opportunities, including Crystal Palace, Wolves against Fulham, and Spurs against Man City. Now, number 3, I'm going to put Ange. I think they have Man City's number, and I wouldn't be surprised if Spurs were to beat Man City, but it's also Man City. They can score goals, and Spurs' defence is pretty damn woeful. So he's going to be the 3rd pick. Number 2, I'm going to put Vitor Pereira with that home game against Fulham. I think it's great. I think Wolves are in a good spot right now. Couldn't put anybody off going there. But I'm going to put Glasner number 1. Few reasons being. First, I think Crystal Palace are just a good team in general. I do fancy them for the home victory. But again, some narrative has been that they've been poorer at home than that of away. And also, I know a lot of managers went to Glasner in game week 26. I think if you got him, you keep him. I wouldn't be moving him on to an Ange or a Vitor Pereira. But if I was buying right now fresh, I think I still would go Glasner, but I think it's very close between him and Vitor Pereira. Let me know in the comments who is your assistant manager this game week. Okay, so going into my game week 27 team selection, kicking things off with the goalkeeper. Now, I would love Fabianski still to be the number 1 goalkeeper at West Ham because this feels like such an obvious play at home against a Leicester team that literally cannot score goals. But unfortunately, it looks like Graham Potter does prefer Areola, so it is what it is. Pickford between the sticks away against Brentford, and you would have seen my team from game week 26. Not an ideal position to be in with me owning double Brentford attack, but sometimes you just have these game weeks and you're going to see for a lot of managers out there that you either have tricky games or your defenders playing up against your attackers. So it kind of is one of those where you just got to hope one team dominates the other. So in this case, I'd rather just Brentford batter Everton and Pickford concedes and I get all the points from my attacking players. It is one of those weeks. In terms of the back 3, I am keeping Munoz, Trent and Gabriel, who paid off in game week 26. I've got currently a bench of Van den Berg and Mikalenko. So currently they have fixtures in game week 29, hence why I'm not really forcing a defensive move right now. Munoz and Trent are obviously the ones that blank in game week 29. Potential sells for me. But right now, with the upcoming weeks, Munoz at home against Villa. Game week 28, a brilliant fixture. Trent has Southampton in game week 28. I'm not looking at making a defensive move, if any, until game week 29 in isolation. For now, I'm more than content playing these 3. Am I expecting a clean sheet? Probably not. I think Palace concede against this Aston Villa attack that are pretty firing right now. Trent at home against Newcastle, I never fancy that for a clean sheet. And Gabriel away against Forest. Again, I don't have that feeling in the pit of my stomach that Arsenal are going to keep a clean sheet. But is there enough of a reason to make a transfer? Absolutely not. So we're going to lock in the goalkeeper in defence and just hope we get attacking returns from these 3. Moving into my game week 27 midfielders, and I had a bit of a debate to be had this week because I've got 1.8 million in the bank, and with that cash it has allowed me to have different alternatives. One being actually moving away from the Bournemouth double midfield. Now, I'm not jumping the gun here in terms of because they blanked in one game week, they're now terrible picks. We have to take into account the red card that happened. That massively dictated the outcome of that game. But I do think with 1.8 million available and the opportunity to upgrade a Bournemouth midfielder to a Jarrod Bowen has to be considered going into this game week. It gives me a differential player who has the best fixture and even a captaincy alternative if I wanted to go there. But I just looked at the rest of my team and thought the midfielders of Bournemouth, while I think they have trickier games than I first thought, aren't a desperate sell right now in my team. Whereas you saw in the front line, there are a few players there that aren't necessarily cutting it right now. So even though I was tempted to bring in Jared Bowen, I'm going to leave it right now and stick with a midfield four of Kluivert away against Brighton. Now, there is a big debate right now who to play out of your Bournemouth if you are stuck with a front three. I'm currently playing Kluivert just because of penalties. However, if we get news that maybe Evan Nielsen is back, he was on the bench in game week 26, that actually could see Kluivert be a worse option if Evan Nielsen gets penalties once again. If I get that sort of feeling, then I think Semenyo will come in because he is the 90-minute man, and I'll just accept Kluivert. If he does get a penalty and takes it, it is what it is. The rest of the midfield picks itself. Mbeumo at home against Everton is good, but he's up against Pickford in my sticks. Palmer at home against Southampton, and Mo Salah at home against Newcastle. We're going to talk about captaincy at the end of this video. So for this midfield, it pretty much picks itself. No real debates apart from Bowen, but I think I'm going to ignore that one. Taking a look at my game week 27 forwards, and as you can see, there is a plan to buy Cunha. Now, I have to put out there, I haven't made the transfer yet. It felt right waiting until the Tuesday press conferences to see if any sort of random news come out that would have dictated the direction of this team. But as of right now, Ndiaye to Cunha is on the cards. Now, the transfer doesn't feel fantastic. The reason being is Ndiaye, if he does return for game week 29, has a fixture at home against West Ham, which is perfectly fine. So me selling a player that has a fixture in 29 just feels a bit counterintuitive with me bringing in Cunha. But the problem is, if I hold on Ndiaye and he doesn't actually get fit for game week 29, then I'm in a position where I've actually passed up on an opportunity of a brilliant forward who's the talisman in this Wolves team for the next 2 weeks. And they have 2 home games as well, which is really important to note. And the problem is going into game week 29, the forwards are fantastic. Cunha, Chris Wood, Haaland, Marmoush. So I have to actually get rid of Ndiaye eventually for me to capitalise on a Cunha or a Chris Wood. So doing it now just makes a lot of sense, and hopefully jumping on some inevitable points for Cunha. Again, has to be said, I haven't made the transfer yet. If we get news that Ndiaye is back, then that maybe changes things. And it's also worth noting that rolling the transfer in game week 27, gaining more information over the coming weeks is definitely a play. But my thought process right now is that I know I want Cunha for game week 29 with their brilliant fixture. So why don't I just get him in now, while they're in form, while he's fit, with these 2 home fixtures, and that's currently where I'm leaning to right now. The other 2 pick themselves, Alexander Isak away against Liverpool, I'm fine with it. Obviously, we have a bit of a debate with Isak in game week 29, but my plan is to keep him until game week 29 and then reassess, because of course, I will have a few cash cows in this team. Trent, Isak, Salah, even Palmer, that will allow me to invest elsewhere for a better game week 29 team. For now, I'm not going to stress about it. I'm keeping those players until we physically get to game week 29. Then I'm going to reassess, see who is the right man to get rid of, if any. And finally, Visser at home against Everton. Again, playing up against my goalkeeper, but it is what it is. So this is the current plan. I will, of course, confirm my team in the deadline live stream, which will be from 5 p.m. UK time, an hour before the deadline. But I'm pretty content with this team. I'm happy with it. Just need to wait for those press conferences. Of course, the big decision now is captaincy, which we have to dedicate a segment to right now. So game week 27 captaincy is proven to be the biggest decision of this game week, and it really does feel like a potential swing for managers. It feels like if you can get on the right side of the coin here, it could be the difference between a big red and a big green arrow. It just has that feeling in my gut this week. Now, I don't think there are any other alternatives outside of Cole Palmer and Salah. Yes, some people are talking about a Bruno Fernandes, a Jared Bowen. You do that if you want to. I think it is very clear. It's between Mo Salah and Palmer, and these ownerships are going to be massive. So whenever we come into each and every game week, I always ask the question, is there any reason to go against Mo Salah? And I'm going to be honest with you. The answer is, as a player, no. Newcastle conceded 3 goals against Forest, and I think they've been poor defensively in general, shipping 4 goals against Man City, who are not even clicking as a team right now. And Liverpool in general have been fantastic, obviously ruling out a couple of poor results midweek in those doubles. And Salah himself has just been absolutely relentless in this Liverpool team. So when we combine all those things together, Mo Salah just seems like the most obvious pick, and he is going to be the most owned captain going into game week 27. So the other part that we have to ask ourselves is, if there's nothing that Salah's doing to suggest not to captain him, Is there anybody out there that is raising their hands to be an obvious alternative to Mo Salah? And I think each and every game week we haven't had that player, but this feels like the one game week in a single that is actually standing out, and that is going to be Cole Palmer. Now, what I'm going to do right now is put up the recent results for Southampton over the last couple of months. And when you look at not only the amount of times they've lost, but also the goals that they have been shipping each and every game week, and it's worth noting they have now lost Bednarek, arguably their best defender, which is a terrible world to be in. It does start to pose the question, is there an opportunity for Cole Palmer? Now, I get it. Cole Palmer has been out of form. Chelsea have equally been out of form. But when you get a team like this, a team like Southampton, who are just going to give up opportunities regardless. Now, I need to ask you the question. Do we see Southampton keeping a clean sheet? I think the answer is going to be no. Do we see Chelsea scoring 2 or 3 goals? I think the answer probably is yes. And with that being said, and Cole Palmer being, even though he's been poor, the talisman still in this Chelsea team, I see more goals in the Chelsea game than that of the Liverpool game, probably. And with that being said, if that is the case, I think there is a world where Cole Palmer picks up a brace in this game and all of a sudden the pressure is on Mo Salah to deliver. So I feel like I've got my brave boots on right now, and I probably will change on the deadline live stream, but at the time recording, I feel like this is one of the few opportunities that we can swing against Mo Salah. And probably because I had such a big green arrow in game week 26, I'm probably on top of the world right now and I think everything's going to go my way, as everybody always feels after them weeks. I feel like I want to take one last swing with Cole Palmer as my captaincy, knowing that Salah's going to be my captain for game week 28. He doesn't play in game week 29. And then, of course, we've got the doubles coming up in the foreseeable future. So Palmer right now is the one I'm going for. I just think Southampton are that damn bad. But of course, anything can change, and I will update you on the deadline live. And let me know in the comments who is going to be your captain. Are we being stupid even considering going against Salah? Yes, guys, okay, that's going to wrap up today's Game Week 27 team selection video. Obviously, a quick turnaround. I'm sure there's a lot of questions. So if there are, please do pop them in the comment section. I'll be sure to get to them between now and that deadline. And as I mentioned, I will be doing a deadline live stream an hour before. So make sure you are hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you know when I'm going live. I will see you there. Have an amazing day. Take care. See you real soon. Cheers.